What New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney thinks of this. Did Republicans make too many concessions, Congresswoman?
Oh, that's a great question. I think in some ways you could argue many of those issues have got to be taken out of the final bill. This again is I'd like to see us pass an actual budget, not a continuing resolution, but here we are again, trying to make a decision. I don't like the sanctuary city aspect of it. I know that the president conceded on the wall, which I thought was a big gesture for him, knowing that that was one of his top priorities. Interestingly enough, I live in New York, but my constituents this weekend were very anxious to have security, and whether it's a wall or some kind of bolstered security on the border is something that they would like to see happen. But there is an increased money for security in the budget as well. So there's some good and bad things. I like the fact that we're going to finally upgrade and do something about improving our military and spending on the military. I'm typically a fiscal conservative and I don't like spending, but the primary reason that our government, our federal government was created was border security and national defense, and those are priorities. We should be trimming and cutting in other places as we look forward to the next round of budgets.
Congresswoman, I want to go through some, because I mentioned a few of the things, but there's no border wall funding. There's no deportation force. There are no environmental rollbacks in this spending bill. It protects sanctuary cities, protects trade with Cuba, protects legal marijuana, funds Obamacare subsidies, funds Planned Parenthood, and funds Medicaid for Puerto Rico. And the troubling thing is, and you kind of touched on it, you go to do the next budget year, the Democrats now are saying amongst themselves, we've got this in there permanently. They'll never take it away now.
That's a good point, and I'm hoping that we can roll those back. I mean, this is going to be a war. Politicians are very sensitive to the idea of shutting down the government, and I think that that is the club that's out there to keep people voting for it. But for me personally, a lot of these issues don't impact New York directly, but again, the sanctuary city issue, many of those things that you listed, I definitely would like to see removed. The Medicaid needs to be trimmed. I know New York State is a huge Medicaid expansion state, and so for us, we've got to put more fiscal discipline on the backs of the states. New York State needs to be fiscally conservative as far as what comes back to us, and there's a lot of waste and fraud in government, and I think we need to work a little harder to make that happen. I'm not happy about what I see in this continuing resolution, and I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it yet, so we'll see where it goes in the next couple of days.
Okay. Congresswoman, one of the words that military leaders do not like to hear is continuing resolution. It's something that really is a problem for them when it comes to planning. I've heard all of the military leaders right now say that continuing resolutions do not solve their problem, because ultimately, the military has to plan years and years in advance for their training, for their equipment, for refurbishment of things like ships. Right. So what is Congress going to do? You can't just throw money at the military. They also need to be able to plan.
I agree, and that's one of the biggest problems facing our military right now. It takes a long time to go through the procurement process. It's very hard to build and maintain a 21st century force by waiting for a continuing resolution, unpredictability. Right now my son is actually a logistics officer in the Marine Corps, and planning is a big part of what they do, and not knowing that we don't where we're going to be and being able to plan not just next year, but 5 and 10 and 15 years down the road is really critically important. So I agree with the military leaders. That is something we really need to do in Congress. I'm a member of the Financial Services Committee, not military, and I'm not on veterans or I'm not on armed services, but we really need to focus on that now, and this is the time, while the Republicans have the majority, to focus on the military, which is a priority for all of us, especially now with the really asymmetrical and unusual enemies that we face that are infiltrating us, across the border, with infiltrating our refugee populations that are innocent. I mean, it's a very complex problem. But I hope that our leaders will recognize that, and I applaud our military for actually working with situations that are very unpredictable. And I've been overseas for a couple of different places and seen just how difficult it is for the military with some of our outdated equipment. We need new technology. I mean, we're using Air Force. I mean, just some of the planes that we're using need to be updated. That are very old. So yeah, it's a very important issue, and I agree with that.